How you doing, anglers? This is Wesley Remmer with the Peninsula Clarion, and you're watching Tight Lines, your hub for all things fish on the central Kenai Peninsula. Well, resident fishermen eager to stock their freezer with salmon can drop the poles and grab a net beginning Sunday. The Kenai River opens to dip netting from the shore as well as boats at 6 a.m. and will remain open until 11 p.m. July 31st. Dip netting is allowed 7 days a week, but only between 6 in the morning and 11 at night. Non-residents are prohibited, and all residents must have a permit in addition to a standard fishing license. Want to give it a try? Keep the following in mind. The permit covers 4 fisheries: gill netting on the Kasilof and dip netting on the Kenai, Kasilof, and Fish Creek. The Kasilof is open to dip netting 7 days a week. It is allowed from shore on the Kenai from the commercial fishing markers located in Cook Inlet north and south of the river mouth, upstream to the downstream edge of the Warren Ames Bridge, except for a section of the North Shore from an Alaska Department of Fish and Game marker below the terminus of Main Street to regulatory markers near the Kenai City Dock. The open area for boats is from Fish and Game markers near the City Dock upstream to the downstream edge of the Warren Ames Bridge. Remember, however, that fish may not be taken from boats powered by 2-stroke motors unless they are direct fuel injected. Only 1 king may be retained from the Kenai, and anglers may not retain kings from the Kasilof or Fish Creek. The total yearly harvest limit is 25 salmon and 10 flounder for the permit holder, plus 10 salmon for each additional household member. Permits are limited to 1 per household. Pack out your trash. Fish waste should be disposed of in fast-moving waters, not in the shallows at high tide or in city dumpsters, which are for trash only. And correctly harvest your catch. All fish retained must be clipped at both tips of the tail fin with a knife or scissors before they are bagged. Also, each harvest should be recorded on your permit in ink. And use common sense. The water is cold and the banks are muddy. Dress in layers and bring a dry change of clothes. Tidal currents can be swift, so life jackets are required for those in a boat, and shore anglers are encouraged to have one handy. Beware of fire restrictions too. Fires are prohibited 25 feet from vegetation and permitted only in established campgrounds or on the beach below the high tide line. When in doubt, refer to the Alaska Sport Fishing Regulations Summary for South Central Alaska. Options also abound for those wishing to fish with the traditional rod and reel. The late run for kings on the Kenai began July 1st, and anglers are now allowed to use bait except for markers located about 300 yards downstream from the mouth of Slycock Creek upstream to the outlet of Ski Lac Lake. Although the action has been hit and miss the past few weeks, a couple monster kings were caught this week. Rudy Leudel of Austria hauled in a 70-pounder on a guided trip with Jerry Hartman of Quick Fish Guide Service. And Brett Gesh of Alaska Bite Finders reported success as his boat hooked 5 fish and landed 4 at Airplane Hole during a trip Friday with clients from outside Alaska. His advice? Simple. Have good bait, run it straight, and hold on. There are strict regulations in place in portions of the Kenai for king fishing. From a marker located 300 yards downstream from the mouth of Slycock, upstream to the outlet of Ski Lac, and in the Moose River from its confluence with the Kenai, upstream to the northernmost edge of the Sterling Highway Bridge, kings may not be kept unless they were smaller than 20 inches or more than 55. That restriction is in effect until 11:59 p.m. July 14th. For sockeye, the early run is all but over and fishing is slow in the Kenai and Russian. The late run, which traditionally brings a flood of fish, should pick up in the next few weeks, but Jason Pollock of Fish and Game said we're not quite there yet. The sanctuary section of the Russian remains closed, so check the regulations for details. To the south, Carolyn Bunker said halibut fishing is good out of Homer, Deep Creek, and Anchor Point, with fish averaging about 17.5 pounds, but ranging from 5 to 175. Bunker told me herring is the most popular bait, but octopus, squid, salmon, and jigs also work. Fishing is good in the 27 stocked Kenai lakes. Check Fish and Game's website for details. That's all I've got this week for you folks, but if you've got questions or comments, email us. And remember, the right line is always a tight line.